Hello and welcome to Washington Central. I'm Saurabh Shukla, a podcast which will tell you what's happening in the world of geopolitics, politics, and more. Today I'm joined by a special guest from New Delhi, Ambassador Dilip Sinha, joining us to deconstruct what's happening on the India Pakistan standoff in the wake of the horrific terror attack at the behest of the Pakistani based terror groups in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. Welcome to Washington Central, Ambassador Sinha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, Saurabh.
Ambassador Sinha, let me kickstart this because a lot of younger audiences are joining us today. What has been the history in a nutshell? How many wars have India and Pakistan have fought, and where do you see this standoff going from here on?
The India and Pakistan got into war just 2 months after Pakistan was created and India became independent because there was a dispute about the accession of the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. The state wanted to accede to India. Pakistan invaded the state. Uh, Thereafter, India came to the rescue of the state, and eventually a ceasefire was accepted. It was mediated by the United Nations, in which about half of the state came to India, about another 30%, 40% went to Pakistan. And that is where the situation remains at the moment. The ceasefire line became a line of control after the Shimla Agreement of 1972. We have fought how many wars? 1947, 1965, 1971, another in 1916, 1999. So that makes a total of four.
Ambassador Sinha, uh, after the after this horrific terror attack, India has announced a series of measures. A lot of people are talking about the Indus Water Treaty. So tell our viewers, do you think the suspension that India has announced, is it enough? What does it entail in terms of flow of waters to Pakistan?
Well, what it means is that the regular meetings of the Indus Waters commissioners, that one commissioner from each side was supposed to meet annually to discuss water sharing arrangements and the implementation of the treaty, those meetings will not take place. And if there is any proceeding, and there are some proceedings taking place in the dispute settlement mechanism of the treaty, those proceedings will be kept in abeyance because India will not participate in them. Meanwhile, India will also be free to carry out any activities relating to the water management on the rivers are attributed, which have been passed on to India. India will be free to take those actions. But India has not abrogated the treaty yet, so we don't know what the final outcome will be of this.
But you have been someone I know who's been very realistic when it comes to India-Pakistan ties. You headed the Pakistan desk in the Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi. What is your sense? Do you see this set of measures that India has taken, scaling down diplomatic relationships, making sure the Pakistani nationals are asked to go back? Is this enough?
Well, I can't say if it is enough because in the past, also we have taken such measures. Uh, After these measures were taken, at times there has been a little reduction in the terrorism coming in from Pakistan into India, but then terrorism has would have gone back to its normal levels, and India also relents and restores a kind of normalcy. Uh, well, certainly since the present government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been in power, normalcy has meant a very low level of normalcy. Earlier in the government of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, there was far greater engagement between the two countries, including after the Mumbai attack of 2008. So it is difficult to say we are in slightly uncharted waters at the moment because the public reaction in India has been very strong, and the government has taken this step of keeping the treaty in abeyance or suspending the treaty. This is quite unprecedented. The other steps of reducing diplomatic relations that has taken place in the past also. So that is part of the other routine that has taken place earlier.
Do you see a possibility of a full scale war erupting between the two countries? Because obviously India has uh, taken surgical strikes earlier, that was minimized. Where do you see this headed to this time?
Well, the government has not yet taken any military action, and there is no indication that such action is imminent. Uh, I suppose partly because the strikes that took place earlier did not yield any long-term effect, because they did have the immediate serve the immediate purpose of giving vent to the anger of the people. But that is not enough, because the damage is always repairable, and Pakistan has repaired the damage and then gone back to its normal policy of promoting terrorism. Which is why I think the government perhaps is thinking in terms of longer term measures, which will uh, induce Pakistan to change its policy.
What are the, if you were to, sum it up, say five things that the government can do to put heat on Pakistan and also to isolate it diplomatically, making sure that there are economic costs on Pakistan, what can the government do?
Well, the most immediate act can be suspending or abrogating this treaty, because India is passing on its water to Pakistan, and there is no international law which binds India to do this. No country in the world has taken on the kind of obligations India has, despite it being the upper riparian. And this treaty has stood the test of time, and it has worked for the last 80, 70 years, primarily because India is the upper riparian. Had Pakistan been the upper riparian, they would have violated the treaty by now and stopped supplying water to India. But India has abided by its obligations. Now there's this thinking that India must impose a longer term cost on Pakistan by not sharing its water. And India itself is a water starved country, and it needs that water for its own purposes. In addition to this, India needs to also highlight some of the internal fissures in Pakistan and the repression that Pakistan is carrying out against its own people, because Pakistan itself claims to be a victim of terrorism, but that terrorism is homegrown terrorism, and a lot of that terrorism is state terrorism being practiced against the minorities in Pakistan, be they the Baloch, the Pashtuns, the Shias, the Ahmadiyas, and even the Sindhis, because the water sharing within Pakistan of the water that goes from India is very skewed. Punjab, the Pakistani part of Punjab, holds back all the water and doesn't allow Sindh to get any water, and Sindhi soil is getting salinized. So that is these are things that need to be highlighted. The people of Pakistan are extremely angry with the regime for these things, but when it comes to India, then they have to toe the government line and keep support the government. But otherwise, they are extremely angry with the repressive policies of the Pakistan government, and this needs to be brought to the international community, that there is a lot of resentment within Pakistan against the regime and its policies.
Can technically can India turn off the tap and actually obviously stop water, because obviously that's going to take a long time, because this is not a tank that you can just shut off the valve and all the water gets stored, because you have to create storage facilities in India, make sure that the water is diverted somewhere else, so that's going to take time.
Oh yes. It'll take a lot of time, because these are very large rivers. You need to build big dams, but then some measures can start immediately. There are canals that have not been desilted. There are dams whose storage has got impounded by this, because it has impounded because of siltation. The Wula barrage work needs to be completed, because we need to have navigation over there. All these projects have been kept on hold by India because of Pakistani opposition and objections. So,
Right.
by keeping the treaty in abeyance, India can start these works, and start using the water progressively for our own purposes.
Right. You've been India's ambassador to the UN in Geneva as well. What can we do multilaterally? Can we get Pakistan declared as a state sponsor of terrorism? Will that help? What about some economic sanctions against Pakistan?
India cannot impose economic sanctions on Pakistan primarily because India doesn't hardly has any trade, and whatever the
Right.
trade was taking place through Wagah Atari border, through the land border, has stopped. Some trade does take place, but a lot of trade takes place through Dubai. That in any case, India cannot stop because India exports to Dubai and then traders export from there to Pakistan. But India is generally averse to taking Pakistan to third parties or raising the issue internationally, simply because we have followed the policy of trying to resolve our disputes and our issues bilaterally. So it will be quite a change of policy if India were to start taking up Pakistan's human rights records or Pakistan's violations of bilateral treaties in international fora. Uh, that decision we have not yet taken, and I don't know if we will.
Right. Pakistan has been saying, and as they've said again and again, and I know it's never worked, that, oh, we are ready to have a joint investigation, so to say. That has been a sham. What is your sense?
Yes, I entirely agree with you. Pakistan is the perpetrator of this act. In fact, the Pakistani defense minister uh, said as much on a British TV channel that in
Yes.
the past they were promoting terrorism. Now, of course, he says we have stopped it, but then we get to know immediately soon thereafter that Pakistan has been involved in all these actions. In fact, two of the terrorists caught or not caught but identified are Pakistanis. So even in the case of the Mumbai attack, they denied that there was any involvement, but later on they had to admit. So this has been the general pattern that Pakistan denies, and then later on evidence comes out that there is Pakistani government involvement. So I don't think Pakistan has any credibility on that count. And so if Pakistan offers to join any investigation, it obviously is a sham, it's a cover up.
But do you get a sense that this is the right opportunity for us? You've obviously seen global diplomacy from closer quarters. This time, the U.S. has responded favorably to India's response. It's standing with India. A lot of other countries have expressed their support. So, do you think this is the right moment for India to make sure that the terror infrastructure or the terror swamps in Pakistan are eliminated?
Well, that would be very difficult because terror camps are essentially civilian camps. They're not military camps, they're not military targets that can be targeted and destroyed. But you're quite right in saying that this is the right time for India to take action, whether on the economic front or on any other front, simply because there is no international tolerance today for any kind of terrorism, especially for Islamic terrorism. In the US, we have seen a very strong reaction. There's a strong reaction elsewhere also. And then also there is a reaction in the world to treaties which have lost their utility, lost their purpose, and which have been misused by countries for their personal benefit. Uh, that atmosphere also is extremely important. So, if India takes action against the Indus Waters Treaty because it is a partisan treaty, it will find resonance in other countries that are disappointed with treaties that were designed for a certain purpose but are not fulfilling that purpose for which they were negotiated.
Ambassador Sinha, Pakistan is virtually bankrupt when it comes to the economic situation. Why would, a lot of young viewers keep on asking me, why is that they continue to perpetrate terrorism? Why is that they have this hatred towards India? What's your sense?
See, it is the Pakistani establishment which consists of the military, which is again dominated by the spy agency, the ISI, and the jihadi elements who have been fostered by this military regime. The military has only one justification for staying in power in Pakistan, and that is the so called Indian threat. And they can keep promoting the Indian threat by constantly promoting terrorism against India, because they can keep the pot boiling, keep the Indian public angry, and keep the government of India from making any efforts towards normalizing relations or improving relations with Pakistan, simply because the government, of course, India being a democracy, government has to respond to public anger. And that is what Pakistan plays upon. In this case, they have deliberately gone ahead and selected people by asking them to identify their religion. And when they identified that they were not Muslims, they were Hindus, they were killed, the husbands were killed in front of their wives. And where they said they claimed to be Muslim, they were asked to recite Islamic texts so that they could prove that they were Muslims. Now, all this was done by these terrorists in front of the people whom they left behind, live, to tell the story. And all this was obviously designed to perpetuate anger against Pakistan and create a divide within India, because India is a multicultural society, it's a multi-religious society.
Sure.
And in this kind of a society, when you try and exploit the cleavages, it's very easy to do so, because Indians are emotional people. We react far more emotionally than many Westerners would. And the government has to listen to that. So this is what the Pakistan army tries to do through these jihadi elements. Because the Pakistani army, one of the facts that we must remember is the Pakistani army tried to attain its military goals against India militarily through military invasions till about 1971. After
Right.
losing three wars, they realized that they could not defeat India militarily, so they switched their policy and started using terrorism as a way to inflict 1,000 cuts on India and hope that after some time India would start giving way.
Ambassador Sinha, one last question. What does the nuclear dynamic play in this entire equation? Do you see India having a nuclear deterrence to make sure that it can take conventional action in terms of a strategic or military strikes without evoking any kind of a nuclear, aggression by Pakistan or a reaction there?
Well, India doesn't need a nuclear bomb to deal with Pakistan. India's military is conventional forces are much are strong enough to deal with Pakistan. It is Pakistan that claims that they use their nuclear weapon as a deterrent to prevent India from using its superiority in conventional warfare against Pakistan. So but if Pakistan uses its nuclear weapon, and as it has been threatening and blackmailing India, saying that if you take any action, we'll use the nuclear bomb against you. If it does that, well, then all hell will break loose. I
Do you
hope
see that
precautions will
possibility
take.
at all? The last question. Do you see that possibility at all?
Well, I hope nothing of that this kind happens. I think that even in this particular incident, we need not go for military action, because military action by its very nature is short term. We have to take cool and calculated action to, number one, weaken Pakistan, and number two, help the people of Pakistan rise against their own exploitative military jihadi regime that has been ruling Pakistan for all these years. It is this that the international community also must take interest in, because here is a nuclear power which is where the nuclear bombs are held by the military and jihadi elements. That needs to be corrected, not just by India, but the rest of the world as well.
Ambassador Sinha, thank you so much for talking to Washington Central. It has been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh.